Hello, my name is Aviva Weintraub. I'm the director of the New York Jewish Film Festival. I'm based at the Jewish Museum, and the festival is brought to you by the Jewish Museum and Film at Lincoln Center annually in January. And I'm very excited today to be speaking with filmmaker Keren Ben Rafael, whose wonderful film, The End of Love, is going to be in the 2022 New York Jewish Film Festival. Keren, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Sure, I'm very glad to be here with you.
So the first question that I think will be on everyone's mind about your film is, how did you predict the future? How did you know that we were going to be living life on Zoom or Skype? You made the film in 2019, right?
Yeah, well, we didn't predict the future in that way, of course. It's just a story that comes from some personal experience. But it's true that that until we made the film, when it came out, it was quite amazing to see the reactions of the public that actually could identify with the film, I think, much more. I think it's one of these few things that got, that had a positive reaction from this COVID period.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the film really could really find like so much more people that reacted to it thanks to this period. And I think even though a lot of people used to Zoom or Skype before, I think it's true that this period really made it like something so common, and there were so many couples and families that were torn apart, and so many grandparents that spoke with their with their kids and with their grandchildren like that, so everyone could kind of understand the implications of this and what it means to live like this,
right,
as a family.
And did you have any screenings at all before the pandemic, or did it really start to launch in, I don't know, March of 2020?
Yeah, I had a second of doubt, but yes, the film actually showed for the first time in a Venice Film Festival. It was made as part of a program of the Biennale of Venice. So it was shown there on September 19, I think it was. And it did go to a few festivals before, so I did it was nice because I could like travel with it a bit, and it won some prizes and all that. And then as we all know, the world kind of changed in a second. And for example, the film was supposed to go out in cinemas in France April, and we had to postpone. And it did go out finally a few months later, and it was quite amazing to see first of all, as I said, the reactions of people, but also I came from Israel, where the cinemas were closed for 1 year, which is a long time.
Yes.
And in France, they actually, well, you know how culture in France is, the best. So actually, the cinemas were closed for a much shorter period, but still people were like looking for this, for going to cinemas and looking for these meetings with me, with other directors. And you felt how, they were really, there was a hunger for this after that first period of shutdown,
Right,
so
right.
A great experience.
Oh, that's wonderful. Right. And as you said, I'm sure everyone could relate on a much more personal level than you imagined, I think, when you made the film.
Yeah, you could really feel it, how like practically everyone could understand. I think the film, I mean, you can understand it also if you don't.
Sure,
if you
sure.
don't do video calls, but I just think that there is something that made us all understand, like the complications of it. When when I first thought of doing this film, it was actually because of this feeling that we can have when we're having a video call and everything is fine and like feeling close to someone. And then when you shut down the call, suddenly you feel like really alone. Whereas 1 second ago, it was really like intense and
Yeah.
intimate, and suddenly so fast. I mean, you can just feel this solitude, and this was one of the things that pushed me to explore these relations.
Yeah, that's such an interesting point because there really is no transitional period. If you're meeting with someone and you leave them, you can stand there, wave goodbye. You can have the long Jewish goodbye that takes longer than the meeting. But when you're on Zoom or Skype and you turn it off, you're finished.
Yeah, and especially I think the thing is more than that. It's that when you have a video call, it's like you invite someone to your intimacy in a way, because you're in your house.
Right.
And especially, okay, here it's a story about a husband and wife and their little child. So it's for some moments they live as if they were not separated at all. You can have this feeling with the video calls. It can give you the feeling that someone is really there.
Yes.
I guess that's why it's even more hard when you cut out the conversation, because it's not like you met someone and you knew you're going to just say goodbye. So it's like you really put someone inside your intimacy in your house, and then you like realize, well, no, he's not really here.
Right. Right. And how did you film? Where was it shot? I mean, it takes place right in Israel and France, but where did you actually film?
Well, the thing is actually that because I guess what is unique about this film is that it is filmed only from the point of view of the video camera, like of the computer, a bit as if we would have found raw materials of a couple that spoke for hours, and then they recorded themselves, and like you are doing now, and then we found all the recordings. It's a bit like that.
Right.
So this is what was unique about it. And of course, it means that we had to find ways of shooting that are different than in a normal shooting, because I did want the actors to act together, at least some. I mean, as much as possible. So we thought quite a lot about how to do this, and what we actually did is we filmed the first week of shooting was in the French apartment, and we have constructed, like not constructed, but like worked on one of the rooms to become the room in Israel. So in this way, we could actually have maybe 10 or 12 scenes where they were acting together. They were filmed in the same time. We had two cameras, some kind of a system that imitates a video call. They could see each other on a very small screen, and they had how to say
Earbuds or headphones. Yeah.
Very small ones that you can't see. And in that way, I could watch both of them on a screen. And they could like really, react to each other. Because all the rest of the shooting, almost all of it was actually, not filmed like that. It was, they were alone, and they either had a playback, or a lot of times they had nothing. It really depended on what I felt was the best for that scene. And
Wow.
Sometimes they just played, they acted without having another person. It can happen in classic cinema as well, in the sense that, sometimes you have a shot which will be on one person, and the other person will just give the lines.
Mhm.
So it's quite normal, but usually you will not have that in the whole film. It will not happen all over the film, and you will usually have some kind of an ensemble shot, having both of them together. And here
Right.
it's not the case, right? So
Right. Right.
it was really different that way, and I have to say that it was really interesting as a way of shooting, and I think also the actors they liked it, and it was special. It was unique for them. It was something that they're not used to, and that I think brought new possibilities for them as well.
Oh, that's great. Yes, let's talk about the actors for a moment. I'll say that in the New York Jewish Film Festival, we've shown films both with Judith Chemla.
Shemla.
Chemla. We showed My Polish Honeymoon a couple of years ago, and we also showed a film with Aryeh Werthaler called Razia, which was a beautiful film from a number of years ago. So shout out to them. Yes, can you tell us more about how you worked with them, how you prepared them?
Um, First of all, the thing in this film is that I had quite a hard time finding the actor that will play like the Israeli guy, because I needed someone that will speak French. And since the film was really produced more in France than in Israel,
Mm,
we wanted, in France they don't put French subtitles when it's French speaking. In Israel, they always do that. It had to be good French, right?
yeah,
That like made it. I had maybe two or three actors in that age in Israel that can speak French, and and then someone told me about Aria, which I discovered in the film called Girl, that was very successful at the time, and I mean I knew immediately that this is like that this will be perfect, and I was really happy that he loved the script and was all into it. And what was quite funny is that when we did the first kind of test between him and Judith. I was in Tel Aviv, he was in Brussels, he's Belgian, and she was in Paris. So the first time we met, we were like on a video call,
wow.
and I after a while, I kind of like stepped out, like I put myself without a video camera, and then they could stay only both of them. And as I said before, each one was in their own house, so in a very intimate situation. And they did one scene, and it was crazy to see this. Like it was like it worked immediately, but also it was like really interesting to be in my position of like being there, not being there, And when I
Yeah.
came back and put back the video, I felt like I was intruding them, I was like, what are you doing here? It felt very strange. So it started off really good. And afterwards, when we physically met and we had some rehearsals, we realized it works good when we have the screen between them. What I mean is that when we tried, even just for the rehearsal, to have them one next to each other, it didn't work.
Uh-huh.
It's
Uh-huh.
like they needed
Really?
these, yeah. I mean, there was actually the first scene of the film, which is a very special one, I think, in the sense that you don't really know yet where you are and all that.
Right.
I thought in the beginning to film them in the same space, and it didn't work. Something, was missing. There
Uh-huh.
was something about this, the fact to have this kind of separation of the of the screen.
Wow.
um what was important, it was part of it's kind of like the documentary part of this film, I think, in a way, because it was part of what I wanted to have as an effect, but it was also part really of like the way we worked together.
That's so interesting. Yeah, it well, I don't want to reveal, but you did a very clever thing with the pillowcases, right? Am I right about that?
Yeah.
um, And working with them, did you stick very closely to the original script, or were there any modifications as you went along, or was there any spontaneous
Actually, it was
speaking?
no, it was actually quite close to the script.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's funny because you know how sometimes a script can take years to write. That's what I lived in my first with my first feature film. This one was written really fast, like crazily fast. We wrote it with the script writer. We write together. We wrote it in like 2-3 weeks. So it's
Wow.
like really crazy. It was because we were part of this program where we had to make the film in less than a year. So everything was really fast. But script-wise, this is like really crazy to write. But actually, I think there was something that was strong in the script. And yeah, of course, there were many changes, of course, but really most of it is very, very close to the script. And I think what was really interesting here is that when we were working on the script, we already knew that this is the way I want to film. So there was already this kind of need to find ways how to tell the story without ever separating from these video calls. I mean, you want to tell not only the story, but also their backgrounds, their
Right.
family,
Right.
the world around. And this was like the real, how do you say, défi? Like the real question, how we will be able, to get all this world inside what it seems to be only two small screens,
Right.
And since we were really working this from the beginning, I think we had ideas that were also scenaristic ideas, but also ideas that I had of how to film it. Of course, later on, we continued to work it together with the DP and all that, and finding like ways to make this still interesting and not, and like finding ways to make it feel cinematic as well. Because the idea was not to show a video call with all its like bad moments
Right.
of even though it's getting better right now. We don't have any internet problems, but I do remember the days where you would have a call and you would see everyone like half
Yeah. Yeah.
blurry and you could hardly hear and all that. So the idea was not at all to go there towards that, but to kind of like make this video call become a language of filming, So to keep the this kind of strong idea to only film through. Of course, it's not really filmed with a computer, but only filmed through the camera of the video call. But then to sometimes to push it more towards shots that feel a bit strange, and maybe sometimes the camera is down here or up there or whatever. And
Right.
in other times to try to push it towards something more cinematography and more like playing either with backgrounds, mirrors, colors or windows or whatever we could,
Right. Right. No, I think you did a great job. The scenes with the families are amazing. Both Yuval's family, like particularly the Shabbat dinner, and Julie's family, the birthday party, in a very economic way. You convey so much about the characters and their relationships. Can you talk about what it was like to film the birthday party, for example?
Oh, the birthday party, it was quite crazy actually. This was one of the scenes that it took a very long time to get this scene. I don't remember how much takes we did, but it was quite a lot. There was something there for me for a while, but also for the actress, for Judith, that we were looking for. And she had to find also in herself, this kind of energy, or maybe more like this kind of rage, because it's really a moment, it's a hard moment.
Right, very.
And both of these two actors, like Judith and Nomi Lvovsky, who plays the mother.
She's also amazing.
Showed her films a lot in your festival as well. Yeah,
yes.
Both of them, by the way, here they're acting non-Jews, by the way, both of them. But so they knew each other. They already acted together, and in Nomi's films, so they knew each other well. But I think in this scene, what was hard but really interesting to get, is to have this whole the people around the camera that moves, Yuval that reacts, who of course was not really there. So having all this in mind all the time and still getting this kind of intensity between these two women, and it was really interesting.
And I can only imagine filming with a baby makes things complicated. Lenny is really, well, his real name probably isn't Lenny, but the baby is adorable.
No, his name is Lenny. Of course, we gave him the name, baby, of course.
Yeah. So he would react.
He was so easy. Listen, he's like, I have a baby now. She's around his age at the time. He was such an easy baby. It's like,
wow.
We were so lucky. And at the same time, this was a film that was made like really in a kind of family atmosphere in a way. And it was the baby of the sister of the producer, which worked on the film as well. She joined with her baby in the same part of the she helped the producer. It was really, it's like a baby of the dreams, it's like the baby that what the hardest thing was, like, how will I make him cry in the scene that he has to cry?
Right.
That was like, and it was heartbreaking to have to make him cry, but all the rest, it was like really cool. Really cool. And
nice.
And otherwise, of course, there is stuff that when you write things with babies, you can't expect to have everything exactly as you write it. And I think that is also what's interesting about it. There were some scenes that I knew exactly what I wanted. I knew I wanted it that way, like the scene where he has to cry because he's sick, or like one of the ending scene. But other scenes, I could write, the baby is there and he's playing. And actually, we had one scene that he became tired. So actually, Judith started to give him a bottle during the scene, and then he fell asleep. So I had like the same scene shot. Scene, it's actually shots, because it's like these kind of very long shots. So it was shot. I had like 4 or 5 different possibilities, and each possibility could not be edited with the other, because he was never in the same. He was completely passing different phases of baby, eating, a bit crying, and then sleeping, and then so you have to be ready for these surprises when you work with babies,
Right.
For the scenes that I knew what I wanted, we gave it time, and we fought to get, like, we just like did everything to get what we needed. And of course, the fact that he was surrounded by really good actors, it's very helpful as well, because they don't stay around with whatever he did,
Right. Oh, that's great. It sounds like it was a very nice atmosphere on the set when you were making the film.
Yeah, I think low budget films, and those that you shoot really fast, and that like everyone has to be a bit part of it. Was a very, very small team, because the apartment was like really small. We couldn't, it was a low budget, so we didn't have a lot of money to pay anyway, but we couldn't have more people. It's like we were really very small team,
Mhm.
And that makes, each one like really part of like the making of everything in a way.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, which was really nice. Yeah.
great. Well, before I let you go, is there anything you're working on now?
Yeah, I'm rewriting a script now, hopefully to shoot in a few months. It's a story of let's say, how to say it in a way without getting inside too much. I'd say it's relationships between a mother and her daughter, um,
Okay,
and how like they have to let go of
okay,
each other to be able to live in a way or die. It's an Israeli film, this one.
okay.
Yeah, and I also have stuff that I developed back in France, and I'm kind of like hopping in between whenever the COVID lets me.
Right,
Uh,
right, right. Great. Wow. Well, we look forward to hearing more from you. And thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Thanks a lot.